My mom needs our support, my husband said, moving his mother into our apartment. That evening I brought my mom with her suitcases. Kick her out immediately, my husband shouted. I just said calmly, hello everyone, hope you're having a great day. Before we start, write in the comments what the weather is like in your city and if you're excited for summer. Enjoy listening. Marina Vinogradova loved the quiet of her apartment for the first 10 minutes after coming home from work. Those moments when she kicked off her shoes, took off her office jacket, and just leaned against the wall were sacred to her. Today, though, that ritual was ruined. Marinochka's here, said a voice that could only belong to one person on the planet, breaking the silence. Vitya, you didn't say she'd come so late. Marina froze, holding one shoe in her hand. The kitchen smelled of something meaty, spicy, and strong, a smell that never came from her own cooking. Galina Petrovna, Marina could only say, though her mind was racing with questions. Victor peeked from the hallway, looking guilty. Just what she had feared when he talked a week ago about how hard it was for his mother to be alone. Marish, I'm sorry. I wanted to warn you, but you didn't answer your phone, he said nervously. My mom decided to visit us. Visit. Marina finally put on her second shoe. In the tiny hallway, there were now extra things. A large, old-fashioned suitcase, some strange bundles, and a box. Galina Petrovna came out of the kitchen, wiping her hands on a floral apron. Marina noticed her worn slippers and the confident expression of a woman who seemed like a guest but clearly wasn't leaving soon. Marinochka, I made borscht. You seem to eat badly, just frozen food in your fridge. That won't do. Vitya's growing, he needs strength. Marina wanted to roll her eyes. Her husband's 35-year-old programmer son, according to his mother, was still growing. She tried to stay neutral. How long will you stay with us? Marina asked. Oh, Marish, it worked out perfectly, Victor said quickly, interrupting his mother. Remember she said there were problems with the roof? Marina remembered some complaints from a past family dinner but had ignored them. With the roof at her house, not mine, Galina Petrovna laughed, though there was a sting in it. She flooded the upstairs apartment, and now everything's leaking to me. 2 months at least of repairs. And you offered her to live with you. Marina looked at her husband. He nodded, confident he was right. What else could I do? I couldn't send her to an aunt in Tambov or a hotel. She's my mother, he said, a hint of reproach in his voice. Marina knew the tactic. Victor always played the good son, in conflicts with his mother. If she complained, she would be the heartless monster who didn't respect family values. Of course, Marina said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Where are you staying, Galina Petrovna? Vitya gave me your bedroom. He'll sleep on the couch in the living room, his mother said happily. I even brought my bedding. Your bed is so hard I'd hurt my back. Marina looked at her husband. He looked away. And where will I sleep? She asked quietly. With Vitya, of course. Galina Petrovna waved her hands. On the couch, young people are used to it. I need peace and my orthopedic mattress. Marina thought silently. In our bedroom on our bed, with our orthopedic mattress that we chose for 3 weeks. She walked to the bathroom, locked the door, and turned on the water. That was enough to drown out the sounds from the kitchen, where Galina Petrovna was enthusiastically talking to her son. Marina saw herself in the mirror, a tired 30-year-old woman with sharp cheekbones and thin lips pressed into a line. Not beautiful, not plain, just ordinary Marina, a sales manager. Victor's wife for 8 years. 8 years during which Galina Petrovna had tested her patience. First came comments at the wedding. Skinny brides usually can't have children. Don't worry, Vitenka. Then Sunday calls asking why there were still no grandchildren. Endless complaints about Marina's cooking, cleaning, and clothes. And now this intrusion. Marina washed her face with cold water and took a deep breath. Maybe her mother-in-law really had been flooded out. 2 months. Not forever. We can handle it. The evening turned into a surreal performance. Galina Petrovna sat proudly at the small kitchen table, serving borscht. You don't even have a proper ladle, she complained, using her own. And the salt's wrong, no black pepper. How do you live like this? Victor nodded, eating the borscht as if he hadn't eaten in days. Marina poked at her bowl lazily. The soup was delicious, which only annoyed her more. Marinochka isn't eating anything, Galina Petrovna said, pretending to be concerned. Watching your figure, right? At your age you have to. Otherwise, everything sags. Marina almost choked. Thanks for the advice, she said politely. I'm just not very hungry. It's been a long day. That's because you don't eat a proper breakfast, her mother-in-law said firmly. I saw your fridge, just yogurt and cheese. But don't worry, I'm here now. We'll eat properly. I'll make pancakes tomorrow. Mom, Marina doesn't like fried food in the morning, Victor suddenly said. Galina Petrovna looked at him like he had betrayed not just her, but the whole country. And what does she like? Those chemical jars, that causes infertility, I saw it on TV. And again, grandchildren. The eternal topic. Marina got up silently and started clearing the table. Victor kept eating, ignoring the growing tension. I'll wash the dishes, he said, mouth full. No. Galina Petrovna stood firmly. Dishes are a woman's job. And I'll sort the kitchen now. Marina won't mind. Not a question, a statement. They washed dishes together. Galina Petrovna scrubbed the pot with such fury it seemed she wanted to strip off the enamel along with the food. Your pots are all wrong, thin bottoms, unreliable handles. Mine are good, old Soviet ones. Marina imagined their tiny kitchen filled with these foreign pots and shivered inside. I see you really prepared for my visit, she said, drying plates. How else could it be? Galina Petrovna said, not catching the irony. I saw how you live, no pickles. Vitenka, imagine a whole winter without my cucumbers. But I brought 3 jars and some sauerkraut. Where are we going to put all this? Marina thought, looking at the already stuffed fridge. That evening, as they settled on the living room couch, Victor tried to hug his wife. Marina pulled back. What's wrong? He whispered. Nothing, she whispered back. Just tired. Marish, don't be mad. Mom had nowhere else to go, and I couldn't warn you. Called once. Could have sent a text. I'm picking up Mom, she'll stay 2 months. You could have prepared yourself. Victor sighed. Forgive me, but it's only for a short time. Mom's been so lonely lately. Marina felt the conversation going in circles. The pattern was all too familiar. First, Victor would do something to please his mother. Then he would apologize, appealing to compassion. Then Marina would give in, too tired to argue. But not this time. Good night, Vitya, she said firmly. 3 days passed in a strange blur. Marina left for work earlier than usual and came home late. Meanwhile, Galina Petrovna was completely rearranging their apartment to suit herself. On the 3rd day, Marina noticed her favorite mug had been moved to the top shelf, because it's more convenient. Her herbal teas disappeared from the drawer. They cause heartburn, she was told. And her interior design magazines were shoved into the far corner of the closet, so they wouldn't collect dust. The real shock came in the bathroom. All of Marina's cosmetics were piled into one basket under the sink, replaced by Galina Petrovna's jars and bottles. Marinochka, I put your creams away, her mother-in-law explained, seeing Marina's confused look. They're all chemical, they only make things worse. Here, take my homemade goose fat cream. Use it. Marina silently brushed her teeth and went to the bedroom, where Victor was. Your mother is going through my things, she said quietly but firmly. She's just helping, Victor waved without looking from his laptop. And anyway, she's stressed with the renovations. She needs to do something with it. You don't care about my stress, Marish. Come on, it's just for a couple of months. Be patient. Victor's favorite phrase whenever it involved his mother. At that moment, Marina made a decision. She would not tolerate this. She would respond in kind. On the 4th day, she took a day off without telling anyone. She waited until Victor left for work and Galina Petrovna went shopping for real food, not supermarket chemicals. Then she packed a small bag, got into her little Toyota, and drove to her hometown about an hour away. Sofia Andreevna, Marina's mother, greeted her daughter with surprise. "What happened? Why aren't you at work?" Marina sank into the old chair in her mother's kitchen and told her everything. Galina Petrovna's sudden arrival, the rearrangements, the pots, the displaced creams, the couch in the living room, and Victor, who thought they just had to put up with it. Sofia Andreevna, a slim 60-year-old with a neat bob, listened silently, occasionally pressing her thin lips together. When Marina finished, she took off her glasses and set them on the table. In trouble, even a friend gives advice while running to help. But a true protector carries the weight, she said thoughtfully. That's Nekrasov. And you know, Marisha, he's right. Your husband should have protected you from this intrusion. Since he didn't, you have to take action. With unexpected energy for her age, she went to the bedroom. "Mom, what are you doing?" "Packing my suitcase," Sofia Andreevna replied from the room. "If Victor can bring his mother without warning, you can bring yours." "But Mom, what about?" "No buts. I taught literature to high school students for 30 years. I know how to handle difficult teenagers. Galina Petrovna is easy compared to them." Marina imagined her always composed, sharp-tongued mother meeting Galina Petrovna and smiled for the first time in 4 days. "I'll take a week off," her mother continued, packing a stack of books. "I'll tell the school it's family matters. Life school, Marisha, not the regular one. I still run a club for gifted kids. And now, it's time to give an open lesson for your mother-in-law." They returned that evening. Marina timed it so they would arrive at the apartment first. Victor called 4 times, but she ignored the calls, sending only a short message. "I'll be home tonight," with a surprise. When they entered, the kitchen smelled of fried meat and the TV played. Galina Petrovna was watching her favorite show. Victor sat there, looking resigned. "We're home," Marina announced loudly, helping her mother take off her coat. Something clattered in the kitchen. Seconds later, Victor and his mother peeked into the hallway. "Hello," Sofia Andreevna said calmly, adjusting her perfect hair. "I'm Sofia Andreevna, Marina's mother. I heard you've turned this place into a little dormitory." "I've decided to join," Sofia Andreevna said. Victor turned pale. Galina Petrovna went red. "Marinochka," Victor whispered nervously. "Can I talk to you for a minute?" "Of course," Marina smiled. "Mom, you can make yourself comfortable. The living room is your room. The couch is already taken by Vitya, but we'll figure something out." Sofia Andreevna nodded and headed straight to the kitchen, where Galina Petrovna froze, still holding her spatula. "It smells divine," Marina's mother said. "I love meat slightly overcooked. It gives that special carcinogen flavor. Don't you think?" Galina Petrovna's expression was priceless. Marina's usually cozy kitchen now looked like a battlefield. Victor literally dragged his wife into the bathroom and closed the door tightly. "Are you crazy?" he hissed, rubbing his chin nervously. "Why did you bring your mother? We don't even have enough space as it is." Marina crossed her arms and leaned against the washing machine. "And your mother has space," she said quietly, each word carrying the weight of the past few days. "When you brought her without warning, it was fine. When I bring mine, it's a disaster. But my mother has a real problem. She got flooded, right?" Marina raised an eyebrow. "Did you check? Call the neighbors. Go see it." Victor faltered, and that said more than words. "I thought so," Marina nodded. "You said, jump. And you didn't even ask how high or think I might be uncomfortable." "Marish, it's my mom. And Sofia Andreevna is mine," Victor said. Marina raised her voice, then softened it. "If we're playing dormitory, the rules are the same for everyone. Either your mother leaves or mine stays. Choose." She swung the bathroom door open, leaving Victor to digest the ultimatum. Meanwhile, a drama was unfolding in the kitchen. Sofia Andreevna leaned elegantly on the windowsill, watching Galina Petrovna flip cutlets with exaggerated effort. "Do you add cream to the meat?" Marina's mother asked. I read in Molokhovets that it makes it juicier. I cook my way, Galina Petrovna snapped without turning. Vinka has always loved my cutlets since childhood. I'm sure, Sofia Andreevna nodded, then recited. Because of a piece of pork fat, a mother renounced her son, her own flesh and blood. What are you implying? Galina Petrovna spun around, clutching the spatula like a weapon. Nothing, Marina's mother smiled. I just remembered it from Sholokhov. 30 years teaching literature does this to you. They say, tell me what you quote, and I'll tell you who you are. Marina returned to the kitchen and noticed her mother-in-law practically puffing with outrage. Dinner's ready, Galina Petrovna announced, piling cutlets on 3 plates. And for my mom? Marina asked innocently. I didn't know we'd have guests, Galina Petrovna said, emphasizing the last word with clear venom. I think Sofia Andreevna can heat my borscht herself, if she even knows how to use a microwave. Don't trouble yourself, Marina's mother said, pulling a sleek container from her bag. I brought my own dinner, a light arugula and shrimp salad. At our age you have to watch digestion, otherwise there's heartburn, bloating, the whole unpleasant bouquet. She looked at the cutlets with such pity that Galina Petrovna flipped them even harder. Victor finally came out of the bathroom and froze in the kitchen doorway, caught between 2 fires. Vitenka, sit down to eat, Galina Petrovna said, placing a plate full to the brim in front of her son. You need to eat well. You've lost so much weight lately. Actually, he's gained 3 kilos in the past month, Marina noted. That's because you starve him. A proper man needs to be solid, Galina Petrovna shot back. Sofia Andreevna calmly put her salad on a plate. Studies show that being overweight raises the risk of heart problems by 40%, she said in a matter-of-fact tone. But of course, a mother's love is more important than any study, especially when it's shown by feeding someone until they're full. Dinner continued in tense silence, broken only by the clinking of forks and the occasional sigh from Victor, who clearly wanted to disappear. His face looked so pitiful when everyone got up from the table that Marina almost regretted her decision. Almost. So, where will I sleep? Sofia Andreevna asked after the dishes were washed. Each woman had washed only her own plate, deliberately ignoring the others. In the living room, Victor answered, not looking at his wife. With Marina. You and Marina will take the folding bed, Sofia Andreevna finished for him. I'll take the couch. Bye back. I can't sleep on just anything. Galina Petrovna, wiping the stove for the 3rd time that evening, made a sound like a suppressed growl. Maybe Sofia Andreevna would be more comfortable at her own place, she said, feigning concern. Well, the same could be said about you, dear Galina Petrovna, Marina's mother replied. But since you decided to delight the young couple with your presence, I couldn't just stay out of it. Family is the most important thing we have, isn't it? Victor groaned. I'll go get the folding bed, he muttered. I'll take it from Seryoga. Back soon. And he ran off, leaving the 3 women alone in the tiny apartment. Once the door closed behind him, Galina Petrovna turned to Sofia Andreevna. You do realize there's no space for you here, she said bluntly. Unlike me, you have no reason to live with your children except one. Marina's mother nodded. I missed my daughter. Isn't that enough? They have their own life here, Galina Petrovna insisted. And I think you're trying to prove something by coming. And what are you trying to prove by coming? Sofia Andreevna replied, sitting on a stool and crossing her legs elegantly. That your son still belongs to you. Marina, who hadn't spoken until now, decided it was time to step in before the 2 older women started a full-on argument. Mom, maybe I can help you unpack, she offered. Let's go to the living room. Sofia Andreevna nodded and followed her daughter, leaving Galina Petrovna glaring at their backs. The living room, now Victor's bedroom, looked bleak. The unfolded sofa, a stack of business magazines, an unfinished book, and a laptop on the coffee table. How do you put up with her, Marisha? Sofia Andreevna whispered, unpacking her suitcase. I've been in the same room with her 15 minutes and I'm ready to commit a crime. I tolerate, Marina sighed. Or rather, I tolerated until you came. Her mother looked at her carefully. So my visit is your way of showing Victor that you're uncomfortable? Yes, Marina admitted. But mostly I think I just wanted support. You know he's always on his mother's side. Always. I can say whatever I want but he doesn't hear me. Can you make people listen? Sofia Andreevna smiled and gently stroked her daughter's cheek. A rare gesture. Remember I always told you that good literature teaches us to understand people. Your mother-in-law is an open book. A trashy novel, predictable. She's afraid of losing her son, afraid of getting old, afraid of being alone, and she takes it out on you. And what should I do? What you're already doing. Show that you have boundaries and rights. And, of course, a mother ready to help. An hour later, Victor returned, loaded with the folding bed and supermarket bags. His eyes were anxious, expecting full-blown conflict. To his surprise, things were almost peaceful. Galina Petrovna was watching TV in the bedroom. Sofia Andreevna sat in a chair with a book. Marina was at the laptop checking her work emails. I brought the folding bed, Victor said nervously, setting it against the wall. And groceries. He thought we might need more food. How thoughtful, Sofia Andreevna commented without looking up from her book. Although I'm on a diet, and your mother seems to prefer her own groceries. Victor glanced at his wife, but Marina acted completely absorbed in her work. Marish, can I talk to you for a minute? He tried again, but Galina Petrovna appeared before he could finish. Vitenka, you brought what I asked for, she said, her voice almost playful. The puff pastry and the meat. I want to bake my special pies tomorrow. Yes, Mom got everything, Victor said, pointing to the bags. Also some fruits and yogurts. Yogurts? Galina Petrovna frowned. That chemical stuff. I didn't raise you on that. Fine, if Marina likes it, let her eat, Sofia Andreevna said, snapping her book shut. And if you eat a lot, read a whole book too. The three of them stared at her, confused. That's Zabolotsky, Marina explained. About food and reading. By the way, your library has no classics. That's a problem. I brought some Chekhov, Tolstoy, Pushkin. Everyone could use a refresher. Oh, how nice, Galina Petrovna said with a tight smile. But the TV screen is bigger than a book. Old eyes, you know. TV kills independent thinking. Especially those endless soap operas about cheating and inheritance, Sofia Andreevna continued. And arrogant teachers kill children's love of literature. Galina Petrovna didn't hold back. Victor looked like he was caught between two speeding trains coming from opposite directions. Let's all calm down, he said miserably. It's late, and we have work tomorrow. True, Marina added, saving her husband. Mom, let me help you set up the sofa. Vitya, you take the folding bed, we'll go to the bathroom, Sofia Andreevna said, and Marina practically led her mother out of the living room, leaving Galina Petrovna and Victor to unpack the groceries. The night in the small apartment went surprisingly smoothly, probably because everyone was too tired from the emotional battles. But morning brought new surprises. Marina woke to sounds from the bathroom, someone tapping the shower wall and singing something she couldn't understand. Victor was gone. Only a crumpled sheet remained on his side of the folding bed. The clock showed 6:30, half an hour earlier than Marina usually woke. The apartment already felt unusually busy. She carefully got up, trying not to creak the folding bed, and peeked into the hall. From the slightly open bathroom door, Galina Petrovna's singing could be heard, something from Kadasheva's repertoire about rowan beads. Sofia Andreevna wasn't visible, but the kitchen made a soft clinking noise. Marina went there and found her mother methodically making tea in a large pot. Good morning, daughter. Sofia Andreevna nodded toward the table. Sit down. Tea's almost ready. Mint with lemon, good for nerves. I see you've settled in, she smiled, handing Marina a cup. Where's Vitya? Marina asked. He left for work early. Said it was an important meeting, though I think he just ran from the battlefield. Traitor, Marina joked, but her voice betrayed some bitterness. Don't judge him too harshly, her mother said softly. It's hard for men to choose between mother and wife. It's like being torn between the past and the future. The singing in the bathroom stopped, and a minute later, Galina Petrovna appeared in a bright bathrobe with a towel wrapped around her head. You're already up, she said, sounding slightly disappointed. I wanted to make breakfast for Vitenka while everyone's resting, Sofia Andreevna said. Victor's gone, Marina added. We were about to have breakfast. Join us if you want. Galina Petrovna gave the table a displeased look. Tea and cookies aren't breakfast, she said. I'll make scrambled eggs with tomatoes and cheese, like Vitya likes. But he's not here, Marina noted. That's fine. I'll make my own, Galina Petrovna said, grabbing a pan and slamming it on the stove. And I suggest proper food, not just herbs. Fish and meat are good for health, though not for everyone all the time, Sofia Andreevna said calmly. That's from Count Tolstoy's memoirs. He became vegetarian in old age and lived almost 82 years. Sure, Galina Petrovna muttered, unimpressed. Galina Petrovna snorted as she cracked eggs so hard that the shells flew everywhere. My grandfather ate lard every day and lived to 90, she added. How interesting, Sofia Andreevna sipped her tea. And how did he die, if you don't mind me asking? Heart failure, admitted Galina Petrovna. But he had been at war, got a concussion, you know. Of course, Marina's mother nodded, acting like she had no doubt. Marina watched this back and forth and didn't know whether to laugh or cry. On one hand it was funny. On the other, she knew this was just the beginning. Who knew how it would end? The day went relatively peacefully, mostly because the women avoided each other. Galina Petrovna ruled the kitchen, banging pots and preparing lunch for Vitenka. Sofia Andreevna claimed the living room, comfortably reading her book and sometimes reciting favorite passages loud enough to drown out the TV from the bedroom. Marina, taking advantage of the calm, finally worked quietly on her laptop for the first time in days. Occasionally she heard one of the women pass by her little workspace in the hallway, but she didn't interfere. Victor came home late, almost 10 p.m. He looked exhausted but relieved. Being away from the domestic battlefield had done him good. How was your day? He asked Marina when they were alone in the bathroom, brushing their teeth before bed. Surprisingly calm, Marina said, spitting out the toothpaste. Your mother cooked all day, mine read and recited poetry. They threw a few jabs at each other, but no real fights. Victor gave a nervous chuckle. You know, Seryoga suggested I sleep at his place until this visit is over. Marina turned to him, unable to believe her ears. Seriously? You want to run away and leave me alone with them? No. I just thought it would give us more space and help you avoid choosing between your mother and mine, he tried to explain. Very mature decision, Vitya, Marina said, leaving the bathroom and letting him be alone. But the night brought another round of confrontation. Around 2 a.m., Marina woke to strange noises. Someone was moving around the dark apartment, trying not to make noise but regularly bumping into things. What's going on? She whispered, nudging Victor. What? He mumbled sleepily. From the hallway came a muffled, "Ah, you," and a sound like someone knocking over a small table. Marina got out from under the covers and cautiously peeked into the hallway. In the dim nightlight, she saw Galina Petrovna sneaking toward the bathroom. At the same moment, the living room door opened slightly, and Sofia Andreevna's head peeked out. Who's there? She whispered loudly. It's me, Galina Petrovna whispered back. Third trip to the bathroom tonight, Sofia Andreevna added suspiciously. Maybe you should see a doctor. At our age, bladder issues are common, Galina Petrovna suggested. My bladder is fine, Sofia Andreevna snapped. But your snoring might indicate sleep apnea. Very dangerous, you know. I don't snore, Sofia Andreevna shot back. Enough, Marina said, stepping into the hallway. It's 2 a.m. Some of us have work tomorrow. The two older women turned to her with guilty looks. Sorry, daughter, Sofia Andreevna said first. We didn't mean to wake you. Of course not, Galina Petrovna added. I just went to the bathroom. Go back to sleep. Marina sighed. Fine. Let's all go to our spots and sleep. No talking, no wandering, no anything. She turned and returned to the living room, leaving the two older women staring after her. My nerves, Galina Petrovna whispered loudly. Whose wouldn't be? Sofia Andreevna whispered back before disappearing behind the living room door. Morning brought another showdown, this time for the first turn in the bathroom. Marina woke to loud voices and found both women standing by the bathroom door, arms crossed. I always shower at 7:30, Galina Petrovna insisted. I get up at 7 o'clock sharp, and by 7:30 I must be fully ready, Sofia Andreevna argued. It's about organization. You're not going to work. Why rush? Galina Petrovna countered. I have online classes with my students at 9 o'clock, Sofia Andreevna said. Unlike some, I stay useful to society even in retirement. Marina glanced at the clock. 7:20. There were still 10 minutes before her alarm, but Marina knew she wouldn't get back to sleep. Good morning, she said, getting up from the folding bed and stretching. Where's Vitya? He already left. The two older women shouted together, briefly teaming up against a common enemy. At 6 a.m., added Galina Petrovna proudly. He said he had an important presentation, or maybe he just couldn't handle this crazy house, Sofia Andreevna muttered, loud enough for Marina to hear. Marina looked longingly at the apartment door. Suddenly, running away seemed like a very appealing idea. Victor waited until evening to announce his decision. He gathered all four of them at the dining table, stretched as far as it could go to fit the dishes both women had prepared. Galina Petrovna had baked a meat pie. Sofia Andreevna had made a vegetable stew. It was a silent cooking duel. As the days turned into a week, Marina and Victor's apartment felt more like a battlefield, with clearly marked territories. The kitchen belonged to Galina Petrovna. Her pots, pans, and jars of pickles crowded every corner, somehow endlessly multiplying. The living room became Sofia Andreevna's literary salon, with books, notebooks full of notes, and cups of half-finished herbal tea scattered everywhere. Mom, soon there won't be any space to live here, Marina noticed, spotting a stack of old lecture notebooks on the coffee table. If Galina Petrovna can turn this apartment into a canning factory, I have the right to my little corner of culture, Sofia Andreevna shot back, not looking up from her laptop as she prepared for an online class. By the way, did you notice she brought 2 more jars of cucumbers today? Where do they come from? A mystery of the century. Marina just sighed. She had long stopped being surprised at how Galina Petrovna managed to bring more and more household items into their apartment. It was as if her mother-in-law had a magical bottomless bag like Mary Poppins. At that moment, the sound of clanging pots and angry muttering came from the kitchen. Marina hurried there and found Galina Petrovna battling a mountain of dishes in the sink. How can a kitchen get this messy? The mother-in-law grumbled, furiously scrubbing with a sponge. It was all clean last night. Is this all your mom's doing? Marina asked. Yes. Those herbs, whose are they? And she didn't even clean the teapot. Marina counted to 10 in her head. Mom, maybe I can help, she offered, trying to sound friendly. No, I'll do it myself. Galina Petrovna waved her off like a martyr. I'm used to doing everything myself. Nobody takes care of Vitenka like his mother does. It was a sensitive topic. Ever since Sofia Andreevna moved into their apartment, Victor spent as little time at home as possible. He left early in the morning, returned late at night, and on weekends disappeared with excuses about urgent tasks. Where's your husband, by the way? Galina Petrovna asked, as if reading Marina's thoughts. I've been coming from the market for 3 days, and he's never home. I cook cabbage soup just for him, and he doesn't even try it. He has a lot of work, Marina replied automatically, feeling irritation rising. Her husband had fled the battlefield, leaving her to deal with two aggressively territorial older women. A project is complicated, deadlines. Work won't run away. But family will if you don't take care of it, Galina Petrovna said, polishing an old pot with unnecessary intensity. Marina knew exactly who her mother-in-law blamed for Victor's frequent absences. Not him, and certainly not her own presence in their home. I think Vitya is just giving us all time to get used to this, Marina said diplomatically. Running away like a rat from a sinking ship. Sofia Andreevna's voice came from behind. Marina turned to see her standing in the kitchen doorway, elegant as always, holding a cup of tea. I wanted to wash the dishes, but I see you've already taken over the front, she said to Galina Petrovna. I won't get in the way, just leaving my cup here. She set the cup on the edge of the table and started to leave, then paused. By the way, do you add bay leaves at the beginning or the end of cooking? She asked. It was an innocent question, but Marina knew her mother well enough to realize a new round of the culinary duel was about to begin. In the middle, of course, Galina Petrovna replied, looking like an expert. So the aroma develops but doesn't fade. Interesting, Sofia Andreevna nodded. I read in old cookbooks that bay leaves should be added 5 minutes before the dish is done, or it will taste bitter. Maybe your books say differently. Galina Petrovna turned to the sink with exaggerated offense. And I cook using grandmother's recipes. Tested for generations. Printed in glossy magazines. Oh, no glossy magazines, Marina's mother smiled. Only old cookbooks. So much wisdom in them. For example, guests should be given a little break from the hosts, so as not to tire them with their presence. Galina Petrovna splashed water from the pot in sharp response. What are you implying? Nothing, Sofia Andreevna shrugged innocently. Just talking about culinary traditions and hospitality. Marina realized she had to step in before the argument turned worse. Mom, could you help me with the report? She asked, grabbing her mother by the elbow and gently pulling her out of the kitchen. It's all about statistics, and you're always better with numbers. Sofia Andreevna let herself be led but turned to Marina in the hallway. You do realize she's not going anywhere, right? She asked quietly. Not in a month, not in 2. She's here to stay. Marina rubbed her forehead tiredly. Mom, let's not panic. Her apartment really got flooded. Vitya checked it. Couldn't she have rented a place while it's being fixed? Or stayed with a friend? Did she have to invade your life? Sofia Andreevna muttered. Marina understood her mother's point, but agreeing meant admitting that she and Victor were stuck. Let's just survive this period, she said. Sooner or later it'll settle. Sofia Andreevna looked at her carefully. There were worse times but never meaner, she said softly. It's not Krasov, but it feels especially relevant now. That evening, Victor finally came home, even though it was past 10. He looked exhausted and guilty at the same time. Marina met him in the hallway. Both mothers had gone to bed, a rare moment of peace. Hi, he said, awkwardly kissing her on the cheek. How was your day? Same as usual, she replied, taking his briefcase. Your mom cooked, mine read. They bumped into each other a few times and exchanged pleasantries. And you? I worked. Someone has to earn a living in this crazy house, he said, looking guilty. Marish, I know I'm acting like a coward, but I just can't. I don't know how to handle all this, he admitted. Marina looked at him, feeling a mix of pity and irritation. Part of her wanted to hug him and say everything would be fine. Another part wanted to shake him and remind him that he'd brought his mother without warning, disrupting their peaceful life. Have you talked to her about the timeline? Marina asked. When will the repairs be done? Victor hesitated. I called the management company. They fixed the leak, but it needs drying and some cosmetic work. At least a month more. Month? Marina closed her eyes. And you told your mom? Not yet, he admitted. But I will. Soon. Soon when? When my mom and yours finally drive each other crazy. Or when we divorce because we can't live normally. Don't exaggerate, Victor tried to hug her, but Marina stepped back. I'm not exaggerating. You don't see what's happening because you're rarely here. I see the daily clashes. They're like two generals fighting over territory. But the battlefield is our apartment and our life. Victor sighed heavily. I'll talk to my mom tomorrow, I promise. But tomorrow brought a new round of battles, starting with the morning bathroom line. I got up first, so I shower first. Galina Petrovna insisted, standing at the bathroom door in a bathrobe. I went to bed earlier, so I woke up earlier, Sofia Andreevna argued, clutching a towel and her makeup bag. Elementary logic. What logic is there at 6 a.m.? Galina Petrovna complained. My blood pressure will spike if I don't take a contrast shower. And I have a lesson in an hour, I need to be ready, Sofia Andreevna said. Marina listened from the living room, lying on the folding bed and staring at the ceiling. Victor somehow managed to sleep through it, or maybe pretended to avoid getting involved. Vitya, she nudged him. Wake up. Your promised talk with your mom can happen right now. He mumbled, opening one eye. What's going on? Your mom and mine are deciding the fate of the world in the bathroom line, Marina said. Victor pulled the blanket over his head. Maybe it'll sort itself out, he mumbled. No, it won't, Marina snapped, yanking the blanket off. Get up and fix the problem you created. Like a man sentenced to the gallows, Victor climbed out of bed and headed to the hallway, where the argument had grown even louder. Ladies, please, he began, trying to calm things down. Maybe we can draw lots. Both older women turned to him with the same look of outrage. Vitenka, tell your mother I have priority because I'm your mom, Galina Petrovna demanded. And you explain to your mother that in someone else's house, you follow their rules, Sofia Andreevna shot back. This is your wife's home as much as it's yours. Victor helplessly looked from one woman to the other. Maybe you could just take turns, he suggested weakly. Today one goes first, tomorrow the other. Great idea, son. Galina Petrovna immediately jumped on the plan. Today it's my turn. What about tomorrow? Why you? Sofia Andreevna complained. If we're being fair, we should draw lots or go by the alphabet. Sofia goes after Galina, so today I go first, Galina Petrovna said. But she didn't give up on age. Respect for elders still mattered. Oh, if we're talking age, Marina's mother smiled. I'll happily let you go first. After all, 5 years is a lot at our age. Galina Petrovna scoffed. 5 years. I'm 62. I'm 67, Sofia Andreevna answered calmly. But I look younger, of course. It's all about a healthy lifestyle, smart eating, and not poking your nose into other people's business. Oh, come on. Stop. Victor raised his hands, finally remembering he was the man of the house. I'm first in the bathroom today. I have a meeting at the office in an hour. You two can fight your age battle without me. And he marched past the two stunned women, slamming the bathroom door behind him. Marina, watching from the living room, couldn't help smiling. Maybe there was still a bit of decisiveness left in her husband. By evening, tensions grew even higher. Galina Petrovna, still offended by the morning incident, decided to take revenge in the kitchen. She cooked a huge dinner. Borscht, cutlets, mashed potatoes and compote, enough for a small army, not just her son. Vinka likes a hot meal waiting for him, she told Marina while setting the plates. None of your sandwiches or ready-made stuff. Marina stayed quiet. She had learned long ago to ignore such jabs, though each one hit its mark. She simply didn't have the time or energy to spend hours cooking after work. Sofia Andreevna, however, arrived at the perfect moment. You know, Galina Petrovna, she said, serving herself a tiny portion of borscht, there's an interesting thing called the empty nest syndrome. When children grow up and leave, some parents can't accept it and try to hold them back, even with food. I don't see what you're getting at, Galina Petrovna snapped. Just thinking out loud, Sofia shrugged. Psychologists say it's important to let children go, or you can do real harm. Excessive care can be worse than neglect. Victor, returning from work to this peaceful dinner, felt like he'd stepped into a minefield. He carefully praised his mother's cutlets, thanked his mother-in-law for her comments, and looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. After dinner, he finally tried the promised talk with his mother. "Mom, I called your management company." He started when they were alone in the kitchen. "They said the repair will take at least another month." Galina Petrovna, busy arranging jars in the fridge, didn't even turn. "A month? No way. They always say that, then drag it out for 6 months. No, this time they promised to finish on time." Victor tried to sound confident, though his voice wavered. "I thought, maybe you should stay with Televa? You said she invited you." "At Klava's place." Galina Petrovna finally turned to her son, looking genuinely shocked. "You want me to go to Tambov, to her tiny 5th-floor apartment without an elevator, with my knees? But, Mom, maybe it's your wife who wants to get rid of me." Victor tried. Galina Petrovna's eyes narrowed. "I can see how she looks at things. She brought her mother here on purpose to get rid of me." "No one is getting rid of anyone," Victor said, but she cut him off. "Don't defend her. I'm your mother. I raised you, stayed up nights when you were sick. And now, when I need help, you want to send me to what? A bridge. A retirement home. There's room for unwanted old ladies like me there." Victor felt his resolve slip with every second. "Mom, what are you saying? You're not unwanted. We're just all cramped here." "Oh, cramped. So there's no room for a mother, but plenty for a mother-in-law." She ignored him, storming out of the kitchen and leaving him completely bewildered. Marina, who had heard the whole conversation from behind the door, quietly entered the kitchen. "So?" she asked, though the answer was obvious. "Nothing," Victor muttered, sinking into a chair and holding his head. "She thinks I've betrayed her." "She's manipulating you," Marina said, sitting next to him. "And she's very good at it." "Easy for you to say." Victor lifted tired eyes to her. "It's not your mother crying and talking about a retirement home. No, mine just quotes classics and makes sarcastic comments. Each one fights with her own weapon," Marina said. They sat in silence for a moment, realizing the situation had reached a dead end. "So, what do we do?" Victor finally asked. "I don't know," Marina answered honestly. "But we'll figure something out." Meanwhile, in the living room, Sofia Andreevna was reading by the window when she noticed Galina Petrovna rushing down the hall and disappearing into the bedroom. A moment later, soft sobs came from inside. "Tears are an argument no man can fight," Sofia muttered to herself, quoting Jane Austen. Not a bad tactic, she admitted. She put her book down and thought for a moment. The situation was stuck, and clearly no one planned to back down. But something had to be done, for Marina's sake, if not for peace in the house. The next day, the battle escalated. Galina Petrovna, still upset after talking with her son, decided to do a deep cleaning. "Look at all this dust," she announced, appearing in the living room with a rag and bucket. "I don't understand how anyone can live like this. Vitenka must have an allergy by now." Sofia Andreevna, preparing materials for her online class, didn't even look up from her laptop. "Studies show that overcleaning can actually cause the very allergies you're worried about," she said. "The body needs microbes to train the immune system. And dust can cause asthma." Galina Petrovna didn't give up, energetically wiping the bookshelves. "But of course you know best." "You know everything," Marina's mother said calmly. "Not everything but a lot," Sofia agreed. "For example, I see you're going to move my books to clean underneath them. I'd prefer you didn't. There's a certain order." "Oh, order." Galina Petrovna threw her hands up, splashing water. "And dust is part of that order. Or are your books too precious to touch?" "Exactly," Sofia Andreevna nodded. "Some of these are first editions. Over 50 years old. I don't want water or harsh cleaners on them. I'm just wiping them with the rag you dipped in soapy water," Galina Petrovna said, finally looking up from her screen. Okay, let's make a deal, Sophia suggested. You clean the kitchen, I'll do the living room. That seems fair. Galina Petrovna straightened, holding her rag like a weapon. And the bedroom, bathroom, hallway, who will clean those? Sophia asked. Or, Marina and Victor can decide. After all, it's their apartment. That seemed to catch Galina Petrovna off guard. She opened her mouth to argue, but just then the front door opened. Marina returned from work. Oh, cleaning, she said, scanning the scene. Perfect. I was going to suggest a weekend cleanup. No need to wait, Galina Petrovna said. I already started. Only your mother won't let me touch her books. They're really valuable, Marina sighed. Mom, I'll dust the shelves myself, Marina offered. Good, Sofia Andreevna said with a triumphant smile. Even my daughter understands the value of these books. Don't twist my words, Galina Petrovna muttered. That morning, which later everyone would call the Battle of the Titans, started surprisingly peacefully. Victor had left for work before dawn, another attempt to escape the tension at home. Marina woke up to silence, a rare event in recent weeks. No loud TV, no kettle boiling, no poetry readings. Peeking into the hall, she found the reason. A note from Sofia Andreevna on the bathroom door. Went to an early class with students. Back by lunch. Don't miss me too much. Galina Petrovna was gone too. The bedroom door was open and the bed neatly made. On the kitchen table was another note. Went to the market for fresh food. Vitenka needs proper meals. Back soon. God GP, Marina muttered, enjoying a quiet cup of coffee in her own apartment. But the calm didn't last. Both older women returned almost at the same time, meeting in the doorway with arms full of groceries and plans. Let me help, Marina offered, watching her mother try to squeeze in with a stack of books and papers. Thanks, dear, Sofia Andreevna said gracefully, handing over part of the load. I decided to finally organize the lecture notes I brought. Tomorrow I have a big training session with the new teachers. I need to prepare, Sofia Andreevna said. Galina Petrovna, coming in behind her with heavy bags, snorted. More papers. They make so much dust. And Vitenka has had allergies since he was a child. Funny, I'm hearing about this allergy for the first time in 8 years of marriage, Marina thought, but no one paid attention. I'm planning to rearrange some things in the bedroom today, Galina continued, heading into the kitchen. The bed is in the wrong direction. North is bad for sleep and causes bad dreams. Sofia Andreevna, organizing her teaching materials on the coffee table, paused. What a coincidence, she said with a small smile. I also plan to move some furniture here. The sofa needs to go by the window for better light. It helps with reading and paperwork. A chill ran down Marina's spine. The two older women stood in the hallway, formally speaking to her, but clearly challenging each other. Maybe we shouldn't move anything, she suggested carefully. The apartment is small. Everything's already compact. No, it's necessary, Galina Petrovna insisted. I can't sleep with the bed like this. My back hurts and I can't work efficiently, Sofia Andreevna added. Good lighting is essential for preparing my lesson. Marina looked at the clock. It was around 2 p.m., and Victor wouldn't be back until at least 8. She would have to manage this double furniture rearrangement on her own. Okay, she gave in. But let's do one room at a time. Bedroom first, then the living room. Of course, dear, Sophia said. I can wait. Moving the sofa isn't urgent. I can't wait, Galina Petrovna said. My back can't handle another night with the bed like this. So Marina agreed to start with the bedroom, hoping to avoid a full-blown conflict. The next hour was exhausting. They struggled to move the heavy bed in the small room. Galina Petrovna commanded every step, insisting each leg of the bed be exactly the right distance from the walls and window. No, 5 centimeters to the left, she ordered. Even Sofia Andreevna, trying to help, muttered, the only thing flowing here is our patience. Galina ignored her. Next, the wardrobe had to be moved to the opposite wall, and the mirror repositioned. It shouldn't reflect the sleeping person, bad luck, Galina explained. Marina realized she had never heard her mother-in-law mention such superstitions before. It seemed she made them up to justify moving everything. When the bedroom was finished, or rather when the helpers were too tired to move anything else, it was time for the living room. Now it's my project, Sophia declared, her eyes shining. We need to clear space. All these trinkets and photos just create visual clutter. She began removing souvenirs and photo frames that Marina and Victor had collected from trips. These aren't trinkets, Galina Petrovna protested, growing more upset. They're memories. That elephant Vitenka brought from Thailand, and this shell from Crimea on their first trip. Memories are in the heart, not things, Sophia replied calmly as she cleared the shelves. These dust collectors just take up space. Minimalism is the modern approach. I'm against your minimalism, Galina Petrovna said, grabbing the elephant figurine. You don't get to decide what stays in my son's apartment. This isn't just your son's apartment, Sophia said firmly, her calm voice now steel-edged. It's their home together. Your son and my daughter have equal rights here. Ladies, please, Marina tried to intervene, but no one listened. You're always trying to boss everyone, Galina yelled. Since you arrived, all you do is criticize my parenting, my cooking, my habits. Before I came, did you think this apartment was your territory? Sofia Andreevna crossed her arms. You moved all of Marina's things, took the best room, and act like this kitchen is yours, she said. My son, your son, is an adult. He has a wife and his own life. Ladies, Marina almost shouted to get their attention. Can we take a break? Tea, coffee. But it was too late. Weeks of held-back emotions finally exploded. Let's start with the sofa, Sofia Andreevna declared and marched toward it. It needs to face the window for better light. That's impossible, Galina Petrovna protested. The window faces north. It's cold in winter. Vitenka will catch a cold. But there will be better lighting. Winter is months away. No. Galina stood in front of the sofa like a guard. I won't let you put my son at risk just for your convenience. Convenience? Sophia's eyes narrowed. I need to work. Unlike you, I don't spend days cooking piles of food and watching TV. How dare you? Marina realized things were out of control but didn't have time to step in. Galina, furious, grabbed a cabinet from the hallway and tried to move it into the living room, apparently to block access to the sofa. What are you doing? Sophia grabbed the other side. Let go. You let go. The cabinet swung dangerously in their tug-of-war. Stop! Marina shouted, running over. You'll drop it. But it was too late. The cabinet tilted, crashed to the floor, and almost hit both women. Its doors flung open, spilling bedding, towels, and boxes across the hallway. The apartment went silent except for their heavy breathing. Are you crazy? Marina's voice trembled with barely controlled anger. You could have been seriously hurt. Both of you. Galina and Sofia stared at the fallen cabinet, shocked, as if they only just realized what had happened. I didn't mean to, Galina muttered, stepping back. You started it, Sofia fired back immediately. Enough, Marina raised her hands. I don't want to hear who started it or who's to blame. You're acting like children. Worse than children. At least kids don't try to drop a cabinet on each other. She grabbed her phone and started dialing. What are you doing? Sofia asked cautiously. Calling Victor, Marina said firmly. This ends today. Half an hour later, Victor arrived home, out of breath and disheveled. The call had interrupted an important meeting, but he knew from Marina's tone that something serious had happened. What he saw was worse than he expected. The cabinet lay on its side in the hallway, its contents scattered across the floor. The living room was chaos. Sofa moved, books and souvenirs piled on the table. In the bedroom, the bed was in the middle of the room, and the mirror leaned against the dresser. Marina sat in the kitchen, staring silently out the window. Galina Petrovna and Sofia Andreevna sat at the table, looking like guilty schoolgirls. "What happened?" Victor asked, glancing from one to the other. "Your mother and mine decided to rearrange the entire apartment," Marina said flatly, not turning to him. "At the same time, with opposite goals, and almost killed each other with a cabinet," she added after a pause. "Cabinet?" Victor repeated, stunned. "It wasn't an accident," Marina interrupted Galina. "Accidents don't grab a cabinet like a tug of war. Accidents don't ignore common sense or basic safety." She finally looked at Victor, and he saw what he had feared all these weeks. Tired, deep disappointment. "Vitya, I can't take this anymore," she said quietly. "I can't live in constant war. This has to end." Victor nodded slowly. He looked at the three women at the table and suddenly realized how ridiculous the situation was. Two elderly, well-mannered ladies had fought over a cabinet in a tiny apartment, and his wife was exhausted from their constant battles. "Mom," he said, turning to Galina Petrovna, his voice firm for the first time. "I called the management company. Your apartment is dry now. They're doing minor repairs. You can move back in a week." "But Vitenka," this time he interrupted her. "I'll come tomorrow, and we'll take your things home together. Marina's sister will help with the heavy bags." Galina Petrovna looked like she'd been slapped. Her lips trembled, but Victor didn't let her speak. Then he turned to his mother-in-law, Sofia Andreevna. "With all due respect, it's time for you to go home too. This experiment didn't work. We can't all live here together. It's obvious." To everyone's surprise, Sofia nodded calmly. "I understand," she said with dignity. "My mission is complete. I came to support my daughter and balance the situation, but I got a little carried away." She looked at the fallen cabinet in the kitchen. "I'll admit, this isn't my proudest moment," she added with a small smile. Galina Petrovna pressed her lips together and crossed her arms. "So, you're kicking me out," she said to her son. "You'd rather have your wife over your own mother." "I'm not kicking you out, Mom," Victor said, rubbing his nose. "I'm just stating facts. Your apartment will be ready soon. Staying here makes no sense. Living together is like sitting on a powder keg. Today the cabinet fell. What happens tomorrow? The repairs aren't done yet. They'll finish in a week. You can stay with Aunt Klava, she's been inviting you. Or I can book a room in a nice hotel with breakfast and everything you need." Galina opened her mouth to argue, but something in her son's eyes stopped her. For the first time in a long while, she saw not a boy ready to obey her, but a grown man making decisions. "Fine," she said, standing up with a look of wounded pride. "I'll leave since I'm extra here." Victor sighed. "Mom, you're not extra. You're just in your place. You have a home, a life. Marina and I have our own life too. That's normal." Galina didn't reply. She just turned and left the kitchen, heading toward the bedroom, probably to pack or just be alone. "I'll start packing my books too," Sofia Andreevna said, getting up. "Marisha, could you help me?" Mother and daughter went to the living room, leaving Victor alone in the kitchen. He sat staring into space, thinking how one thoughtless decision had caused so much chaos. In the evening, with the two older women in separate rooms, Sofia carefully packed her books while Galina Petrovna loudly watched a TV show. Marina and Victor sat in the kitchen, piecing together the day's events. "Did you record a video diary?" Victor asked, noticing his wife's phone. Marina nodded and handed it to him. "Not on purpose, just in case. Sometimes the situation felt so absurd it needed to be documented." Victor pressed play and watched. His mother trying to pull the cabinet, his mother-in-law pulling the other way, and the moment it fell captured in full detail. "Good God," he shook his head. "How did it get this far?" Gradually Marina sipped her tea. Day by day, step by step, she thought. "Your mother came and took over the apartment. I brought mine to balance things. And then everything just started moving on its own. I should have stepped in earlier," Victor admitted. "When you brought Sofia Andreevna, I should have realized that you weren't just getting back at my mom. You were showing me where I went wrong. Yes, Marina said, looking him in the eyes. But you still ran away. You left me to deal with both of them. I was scared. He lowered his head. It was easier to hide at work than choose between my wife and my mother. And in the end, we almost lost the cabinet, Marina said with a weak smile. And not just the cabinet, Victor added, taking her hand. I could have lost something far more valuable. They sat in silence, holding hands, realizing they'd gone through a trial that could have torn their family apart, but instead made it stronger. The next morning, Victor took time off work, rented a small van, and went to pick up his mother. Galina Petrovna was already packed. Her suitcases and boxes stood in the hallway. I remember when you were little and cried when I went to work, she said, staring past her son. You'd cling to my skirt and say, Mom, don't go. And now you're sending me off. Mom, Victor sighed. I'm not sending you away. You're going back to your home, where you'll be comfortable and peaceful. No more battles. And what about my meals? Who will cook proper food for me? We managed for 8 years before you came, he reminded her gently. And we'll manage now too. Galina pressed her lips together but stayed silent. She started putting on her coat when Sofia Andreevna came into the hallway. Are you leaving too? She asked, looking at the suitcases. Marina will take me after work. An awkward pause followed. It was nice to get to know you, Galina said finally, putting on her gloves. Likewise, Sofia replied. Despite our disagreements, I must say, you raised a good son, shy but basically a decent man. Galina blinked in surprise. She hadn't expected that. And you raised a strong daughter, Sofia continued after a pause. A bit too independent for my taste, but she has character. In this world, women need character, she smiled. Especially if she's marrying a son of a determined woman like you. It was perhaps the closest thing to a compliment exchanged during all their weeks together. I'll come by, Galina said to her son. To check in and cook sometimes. Of course, Mom, Victor smiled in relief. Just give me a heads up. He loaded her things into the van and helped her into the front seat. As they drove off, Galina saw something on the kitchen wall through the window, a neatly written quote in calligraphy. She couldn't read the words but knew it was one of Sofia Andreevna's little jokes. I'll come back and erase it, she thought, but deep down she knew she would only return when invited. That evening, after Sofia Andreevna left, Marina and Victor were finally alone in their apartment. They sat in the kitchen, drinking wine, looking at the quote on the wall, a keepsake left by Sofia Andreevna. Your mom tried to erase it before leaving, Victor said, studying the wall. I saw her scrubbing, Marina replied. And the letters just got brighter. Victor laughed. Like in a movie or a book. Impossibly symbolic. Marina smiled and opened her phone gallery. Dozens of short videos were saved there. Silent proof of the domestic war that had unfolded in their home. Will you delete them? Victor asked, looking at the screen. Marina paused, then shook her head. No, let them stay. In case you ever decide to show motherly concern in such a radical way again. No way. Victor raised his hands in mock horror. Lesson learned. No mothers-in-law. Just you and me.